down to the border of Egypt. Lord Balfour came out with a declaration after they were given control over that land and said that he wanted to set up a homeland for the Jews. That set the end-time prophecy into motion for Israel to be brought back to the land. This is important because 1917 to 1948, British ruled under the League of Nations mandate. In 1948, they gave the land of Israel back to the Jews. Now, I know a lot of people say, well, the Palestinians were there first, and if you're saying that, then you have selective history. Because the history goes back way before that it was Israel. It's always been Israel. Remember, we talked about that when we talked about the insurgents of the Nephilim, and why Joshua sent, when God gave him the land of Canaan, Joshua sent those spies in there to check out the land. Came back and said there were giants there, that we were like grasshoppers to them. That it really was, though, the land of milk and honey. That it was rich in fruits and vegetables, and there was plenty of water. It was the land of milk and honey, and it was the land that God had given them. They said, but we can't go in there and take it because it's full of these Nephilim, these giants. They were so big that we were like grasshoppers to them. Which is why God said, you're going to go in there, I'm going to be with you, and you're going to kill everything in there. Every one of these polluted DNAs are going to be killed. You go in and kill every man, woman, child, and beast that's in there because they are all polluted. They had polluted DNA. They had the DNA of the Nephilim. God was not going to give his people to mingle with a polluted people. Now, you can always go back and listen to my program on that if you want a further explanation of that. So what happened? In 1948, the Jews came back. They've been at war ever since. Since the very day that they came in and took that land back over in 1948, Egypt and Jordan attacked them immediately. And it's gone on and on and on and on. In fact, it turns out that was the War of Independence. Iraq, Syria, and Jordan attacked them in 1948 as soon as they took the land. 1967, the Six-Day War, Egypt, Jordan, and Syria. Well, as we know, this is when they took Jerusalem back. From Jordan, they took East Jerusalem and the West Bank, which God had given to them in the first place. In Egypt, they took the Sinai Desert and Gaza, which also God had already given to them a long, long time before the Romans ever started calling that land Palestine, which is where that came from. After the invasion of Rome, the Romans referred to that land as Palestine. That's where the name Palestinians came from. The Palestinians are no unique people. They have no unique language, no unique culture. They have nothing that makes an ethnic people an ethnic people. And you think about this. Chinese, Japanese, Russian, American, South American, all of these different cultures have their own unique culture, their own unique language, their own unique way of doing things. Palestinians have none of that. But that's not the point. 1968, the War of Attrition. 73, the War of Yom Kippur. 82, the Lebanon War. 06, another Lebanon War. This just goes on and on in the Middle East. Now, this 156 million people that have been killed, murdered, brutally in some cases, very brutally, is like has never been before in human history. Vietnam, the Laotian Civil War, Cambodian Civil War, the Yemen Civil War, the Indian Civil War, the Six-Day War, the Warsaw Pact invasion, the Bengali War, the Yom Kippur War, Lebanese Civil War, a third Laodicean War, the China-Vietnam War, Cambodia-Vietnam War, Afghan Civil War, the Iranian hostage crisis. I mean, all of these things just seem to go on and on and on and on and on. Well, you know, some things that weren't even called a war have a significant part to do with end-time prophecy. Because it says, in fact, no, I won't do that yet. It says that there will be wars, rumors of wars, earthquakes in diverse places, pestilence, and famines. Well, it turns out that the famines seem to coincide with these wars. That war itself seems to cause a lot of famines. Not all of them, but a lot of famines. A lot of people die. There's a lot of collateral damage that comes from famines that are associated with these wars. A lot of people don't realize this. Let me give you some examples. The China warlord era from 1917 to 1928, 800,000 people killed. Out of these people, almost half of them were died, I should say, through famine. There were also, in these wars, not only famine, but executions. Sometimes they were executing their own people. You know, it's said that things like the first Indochina War, 400,000 people were killed in this Indochina War, because China has always been a very turbulent place. They say that out of this, there were almost 300,000 of those who died through starvation. Just through plain old starvation. Was that famine, or was that just starvation? Well, what happened in Algeria? It's the same scenario. Where in Algeria, 1954, 537,000 people killed. The Algerian government claims that 1 million were killed, but 537,000 of them were actually killed through the war. The rest came from famine and disease. Famine and disease. There's an association here between these things. What about in the Sudan, 1955, 1972? 500,000 people. Hunger was the worst killer. Hunger was the worst killer. Was it famine? Well, I don't know. Is it famine if people don't have food or can't get food? You know, under Saddam Hussein, he had the same problem. People unable to even get food. Let's listen to this prophecy.
As Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately.
Tell us,
they said,
when will this happen, and what will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age?
You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains. For then there will be great distress, unequaled from the beginning of the world until now, and never to be equaled again. If those days had not been cut short, no one would survive. Immediately after the distress of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the sky, and the heavenly bodies will be shaken. At that time, the sign of the Son of Man will appear in the sky. When you see all these things, you know and it is near, right at the door. Truly, I tell you, this generation will certainly not pass away until all these things have happened. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. They knew nothing about what would happen until the flood came and took them all away. That is how it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. Therefore, keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come.
How does this fit with other end-time prophecy? You know, wars and rumors of wars. The 20th century has been one of the bloodiest, most brutal times in war history. Are we working up to a peace? Are we working up to a time where the globe is what the futurists say will be a global country under one leader? Someone who will rule the entire world so there will be no need for war? I mean, after all, it seems to be war, according to them, that causes all the bad things in the world. And obviously it causes a lot of bad things in the world. But is a one-world leader, a one-world government, the answer? How many of these other prophecies are coming to pass? You heard in the clip that I just played. When you see all of these things come to pass, not some, not a few, when you see all of these things come to pass, know that your time is near, even at the door. Let's see if there's other ones that coincide with these wars and rumors of wars. From 1800 to 1900, a 100-year period, recorded earthquakes in the world was 645. 645 earthquakes in that 100-year period. Now, given the fact that we didn't have the technology that we have today to record, discover all of the earthquakes that were happening everywhere, that may be a factor. However, from 1900 to 1994, there were 1,845 quakes in a 94-year period. Well, even in the early 1900s, we still didn't have that technology. But yet we have a threefold increase of earthquakes. From 1994 to the year 2000, in a 7-year period, there were 1,163 earthquakes. And he said there will be earthquakes in diverse places. Matthew 24:7 talks about plagues. Do we have plagues now that we didn't have before? Well, I want to be fair about this. Let's present all sides of this. Before technology started skyrocketing the way it is today, we had the Black Plague, mumps, measles, typhoid, all of these things that we found cures for, that we have combated successfully. Do we have an increase in plagues now? Are we now in an era of plagues that are above and beyond that? Well, we now have AIDS, anthrax, warfare, flus, the N1H1, N5H1. We have these things that are created in the laboratory. We have viruses that scientists are genetically mutating to pass from human to human to see if it can be done, and then wanting to publish that information? Really? Really? They want to publish it? What about the bioweapons? We have enough weapons, bioweapons alone, to destroy every life on Earth. For some reason, in the 20th century, mankind, through this advance in technology, has successfully taken things that were intended for good and turned them for evil, which is the nature of mankind. The splitting of the atom, unlimited power. What a great thing that is. Unlimited power. It's clean and it's unlimited. Nuclear power. Immediately, man does what man does best and took what was intended for good and said, hey, let's make a bomb out of that. We can kill millions and millions of people with one bomb. Let's make a bomb out of that. Yeah, let's make a bomb. Nagasaki and Hiroshima is the result of that. What about some of the brutality of World War II? There's two